Okay, we're just finishing off. In a week or so, other bits and pieces have got in the way, but we're just about to build the rest of the casing back up. The unfortunate thing with the B25 is the best way to build it up is if the clutch isn't on, so the clutch tapered hub has been released, and you build the whole gearbox up into this casing. You leave the sleeve gear in because obviously that's got the big nut behind it for the sprocket, and it just simply all goes in dead easy. Obviously I'm not going to strip the clutch down, so it's a bit of a more difficult way to put it back. So then we haven't touched anything in here, push rods in, all I've done, taken the selector out and the plate while we're messing around with this thing. So I've cleaned all the faces up, I've airlined all the holes out, there's no muck anywhere, it's all nice and clean. The selector obviously will go in either way. If you put it in upside down, you'll have 1 up and 3 down, but it's obviously which way it goes. You can see the witness marks for the selector obviously that way, but also there's generally a letter T here stamped on for top. This one hasn't got the letter T, it's got 69 on it, which is because there's that many variations of this plate, slight modifications they did over the years. Maybe they date stamped them, but anyway, number to the top. You can see the witness marks here, so that goes to the outside. So generally I use second gear as a position to put it in. So first, neutral, second, third, fourth. So go for that second gear peg and try to get your little selector rollers lined up. So there's our second on the spring-loaded plate. If I push down, I can pick one of them up, and if I waggle it, I can pick the second one up. So I've got both of them there, and that's holding that quite nicely in place, he said. Stay there, and it might. And then we've got the selector itself. Obviously all this is good because I've had all this apart, and when we did the refurbishment, these poles are good and the springs are good, so no worries. So this then, you have to kind of like tease the little pegs back and get that in its little hole. Nearly, we're in. So that then also should hold it quite nicely in place, and we're in. So we're now like locked in second gear, so the hole is level with this peg and the gear lever, and it makes it a bit easier going back in. Still going to be a struggle, but it will go. So the casing I've cleaned up, cleaned all the faces up, airlined all the holes out, obviously done my little check with my special tool, whatever size it was, so I know that my return drain line hole is clear, the run back to sump hole, and also there is another breather right at the top there. Bit bigger hole, doesn't matter, not critical about how big that one is. That's just the breather for the gearbox, because the nylon dipstick has got no breather in it. So obviously as the gear oil gets hot, you know, the pressure's going to build, and that just allows the air to escape, expand and contract through that top hole. So that case is ready to go back. What I'm going to do now is, obviously there's no gaskets. I know you can get gaskets for these now, but I don't like to fit them because I've shimmed the end float up on the gears when we did the gearbox, when we refurbished the engine. But I just put a very, very light smear of an anaerobic sealant on here. With it being anaerobic, it will only go off where the air is expelled, so anything that squeezes out stays liquid. It dissolves in the oil, and because the quantity is so low, it just goes back in the system, and it's unmeasurable. So that's ready to go back. I've got my O-ring, obviously that's got to go back in there. So I'm going to lightly lubricate this now. Lightly put my sealant on here, fit my O-ring, put a little bit of lube on these shafts and these pegs so everything goes in nicely, and then we'll come back and we'll have a go at trying to get this on. So we'll see you in a second. Okay, just before we go back to put this case on, just before I put the sealant on it and everything, just to make life easy for yourself, we've got to get this pivot pin in, because obviously now the pivot plate, you can't get hold of it or anything because it's obviously inside the gearbox. So you grind a very, very slight lead on the front edge of the pivot pin, just will help you pick up that selector plate. But also you've got to get your split pin in, obviously from the other end, which is quite difficult. So remember, we use this 3/16 casing screw, so I've wound that in and just give it a nip so that you can turn it without it unscrewing itself. Then if we feed this in, roughly we've got an idea where that hole is going to line up with a split pin hole, and it's round about there somewhere, but not quite. So you can jiggle it back into using the head of the screw, he said. Oh, there we go, and we're in. So there's the position where we need to be to get the split pin in. And then just get yourself a Sharpie or a marker pen or whatever's going, and just put a mark on, so we know we don't want to be midway on there. Just put a mark on your cap screw so that when we've got this casing on, so we don't want to be pulling it back off again once it's got the sealant on it, you know that if you get that level with that pin is going to be in a position where the split pin can pass through. So just because it is awkward, it is nice to build this thing up on this casing and drop everything in, but obviously we've not got the clutch apart, so the clutch hub's still there. So that's just might be a bit of help or assistance before it goes in, just to get this thing lined up. So we'll be back in a second fitting this case. Okay, now for the fight. So I've lightly, ever so lightly, put my Permatex anaerobic sealant on there, hardly any, just because the surfaces are very good. Little bit of oil, my O-rings in place, little bit of oil on whatever's going to slide through, and we just have to tease it on now. So it's not the easiest, but it can be done. Okay, so gear lever first, then main shaft second, and tight on the main shaft a tad. So that's actually lined up and it's sliding through the selector plate. So now you just have to be brutal, but you can't be brutal with a plastic hammer, and just gently, I don't think something's right there with that selector, to be quite honest. Just going to pull it back, he said. Let me have another look at that selector. Something is not right there. The plate should be further back than that. Something's jumped out. Voila. Stay. It's back in. Push the little tangs back. I think we're in. No, we're jumped out again. It's not the easiest of tasks. It can be done, obviously. 1, 2. We're in. And then this monkey. And we're definitely in. So let me get the torch. Yep, rollers are both engaged. So let's have another go. Looking okay. See what happens. Try again. O-ring still in place. She's going. Line my plate up. Torch. That way a tad. No. Now she's jumped off. Let's have another go. Just let me fight with this plate and we'll be back. Okay, we've gone for third gear this time. See if that makes it a tad easier. Right. O-ring still in place. Let's line you up. All looking good. Maybe. Maybe, baby. Maybe. So think we are down. So the next job is trying to get this lined up, which is not the easiest of jobs. Oh, let's put that in first. That raises up the lay shaft. You can sometimes, because the bike's lay on its side, it's not too bad. But if you try and do it when it's stood up, this shaft drops down and you struggle to get the kickstart mechanism in, because the end support for that bearing, the needle roller bearing's there. So that's got to be up and that's got to be in, and it's gone. So that helps you. So it is going to go. So let's get back to that shaft. So we've got our mark. We'll just give it a little bit of one squirt of lubrication. there's our mark, so it's that way in, and this is the struggle bit. So sometimes you can just press it down with a shaft of a hammer. Come on, baby. That way a bit. It's close. Let me just have a look from here with the torch, just to give me an idea. I'm going to move you around to there because I need to be there. Okay. That is just ever so close. So let me get my little torch. I can get down the back of there and just see. So I'll be back in a second when I've had another look at the alignment. Okay, he's close. Just lined up now. Just had to be exactly pressed down, dead straight against the spring. Yeah, we're in. So line up my line, which is there somewhere, and see if we can get the split pin in. Wherever I put the split pin, there we go. So I'm just going to put it in upside down for the moment to get the alignment. Because it's difficult from the top. There we go. So it should now go in. Yes. And it's in. And I only just put a little bend on it there. I know it's far too long, but... and it's in. So I should really go and get an Allen key for that. So the casing is fitted, and it's just a case now of running round with the casing screws. But what I'd like to do is make sure that the kickstart shaft lines up with the bearing. So let me get this out of the way because this impedes what's going on. And we're out. Just give that a squirt. Shaft. And we're in. Okay, so let me nail this casing up with the cap screws, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, we're nailed up. So I've never ever seen a torque figure for these. These are quarter UNC, the big ones, and obviously the small ones that go on the outer case of 3/16. And I generally don't torque them I just do it by hand. But if you were going to do it, I was just working out, I've tightened them up how I feel how they should be, and I've just checked it with a torque wrench, and I tightened them to 9 Newton meters. So whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but I don't like going any more than that, because obviously the aluminium's very soft, and obviously if the thing's been apart 1,000 times before, the threads are generally tired anyway. But yeah, 9 Newton meters seems to work for me anyway, rightly or wrongly. So there we go for that. So now that it's nailed up, got to make sure I've got a full range of gears. I'm sure it's right, because they just won't go back together if it's not correct. So let's just stick this thing on. So let's go all the way to the bottom first. That should be first. So up a little bit. Should be neutral. Yep. Down first. Back neutral. Second. Third. And fourth. Third, second. Neutral. First. So yeah, we've got a range of gears, which is could come in handy. Come off. So this thing next. So that we know this just drops in. This is the only non-screw. This is the special bolt. This one with the pillar on it for this thing. So a lot easier to put on than a C15. So that, and all the later C15s are the same as this, so if you've got a later C15 then no problemo. So you can do it by hand, no bit of a twist and you're on. So there's our return spring fitted for the kickstart. Now we want to put all this stuff on here, the ratchet mechanism. So that this is a different order to the B50. So the little ratchet wheel first, obviously with the ratchet teeth facing upwards. Then you've got like the sleeve, or like a piece of tubing what the spring runs on, and the second ratchet gear. So the second ratchet gear, ratchets facing together. Then the spring which sits on that sleeve. Then the weird looking star washer thing with the little bent tags that go forward into the splines. So you've got to line them up. And then the nut. And that is how that ratchet mechanism goes back. So this is also the lock tab, this special washer, but what I do, rightly or wrongly, I don't generally use this lock tab. I just keep it as the splined washer to keep the spring in place, and I normally put a tad of Loctite on this nut. I haven't got a torque loading figure for it. It's a very fine thread. It's probably 7/16 or something. So you just have to go careful tightening it up. If you want to bend the tab over, yeah, but generally I've found that you do more damage to that special washer trying to fold it over than you know, a bit of Loctite will do the job. So I'm going to Loctite mine. So that inner casing, which is the hardest bit, is actually done. So we've set up now. I'm going to Loctite and tighten that up. Then we're ready for the outer case. So let me get the rest of the bits and bobs and we'll be back in a short while. Okay, we're ready for the outer casing, so I've nailed that up, bit of Loctite on there, torqued it to however I felt, because there isn't a figure for it, but it's only a very slim nut, so just be careful you don't strip the threads on it. Anyway, there's our light smear of anaerobic sealant. I've put a bit of grease underneath the clutch push rod ball bearing. I've never altered the distance of this, but it's if that casing, let's just get it lined up a little bit better in the camera. If this casing was 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it's about 10 past that arm, with that pulled all the way back. In my setup anyway, whether there is any different push rod lengths, I don't know. So that now is ready to go on. So the ball bearing is going to stay where it is, because it's held in by grease. So gear lever, gear shaft and kickstart shaft aligned, he said, and down we go. Just got to get past the seal without damaging anything, and down and down and down and down up to the dowels. And I also put a little grommet in here because I don't run the cable out the top for the points, because obviously I'm running mine out that other casing at the front. Onto the dowels, and we are down. So that now probably about 5-2 where that picks up. So let me nail that up with the screws, and we'll move on. So be back in a second. Anyway, we're done. It's close as it's going to get today, 8 o'clock. We're timed up with our little tool and the peg, obviously, all filled up, oil's on, tank and seat to go on, and I'll probably strobe it up, but I'm away for a couple of days, so I might do a video on the strobe timing, because unless I'll have a look in the video library if I've done one. I won't, but I might not have done the strobe timing on this one, so I'll have a look, and if we've not, then I'll do a strobe timing with the Wassel vape and see how we go. But 8 o'clock, so that's it for a couple of days for me, because I'm away, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later, folks.